And here we go. We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be nominal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Doubling up. Roger, roll, Atlantic.
Water towers fly! Yes!
Tango down to nominal.
Fighting downside SPD off. Bring in SPD off. Off. It's orange!
Orange 45! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage.
What is it?
Put that in the big bag, Eagle.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
This methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You good? Sure. We don't need any more of these.
Good evening, everyone. You are taking a live look right now at Space Launch Complex 40 at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida, where SpaceX is getting ready to launch another batch of Starlink V2 mini satellites. And as always, this is not your ordinary Starlink launch, and there's a couple of reasons why, one of which you could probably tell just by how clean the booster on your screen is. I am Sawyer Rosenstein. I will be your host for this evening, and joining me tonight is Alejandro Alcantarilla Romero. Alex, how's it going?
Well, it's a late night Starlink, but those always do be hidden different, I guess. And this one is different, as you said. It's a new booster, so yeah, new week, new booster, I guess.
New booster, new me. There we go. And joining us tonight from the field for commentary is Mr. Max Evans. Max, how are you doing this evening?
Good evening, everybody. I'm doing great, Sawyer. Thanks so much for asking. It is a gorgeous night here at the Kennedy Space Center, looking over to the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, and it's the second brand new booster within a month, so that's kind of a rarity, but we are here for it.
We are absolutely here for it, and I see that all the 5x5s in chat means that everyone is here to join us in chat as well. Of course, we can't forget D-Wise, also out in the field. He'll be providing us awesome views, and of course, the usual slow-mo fantasticness of the launch. And tonight, pushing the buttons, pulling the levers, and bringing the views to you is Carson. See, we do thank the operators here sometimes. And a reminder, if you have questions throughout the broadcast, you can tag us at NASA Spaceflight, and we will do our best to answer as many of your questions as we can. So, Alex, the Starlink Group 12-15 mission, do you mind telling us a little bit about what's on board and the very, as you pointed out, unique, clean booster on the screen?
Yeah, so on this mission, we've got, this is a Group 12 mission, so as if you've been following along for the past few months, we've had Group 6 and Group 12 missions. Group 6 missions are Starlink V2 mini satellites only, but for Group 12, there's a mixed batch of Starlink V2 mini satellites and direct-to-cell satellites. In this case, it is 10 Starlink V2 mini satellites and 13 Starlink direct-to-cell satellites, all of them going to a 43-degree inclination orbit, which means this launch is heading southeast out of Florida, essentially, going over the northern parts of the Bahamas, essentially. And so that's more or less the gist of it, right? Like, that's the usual profile. The second stage will do 2 burns. The first one will put the satellites and the second stage into a preliminary parking orbit. Then there will be another relight about 50 minutes afterwards. That'll put it in the deployment orbit, which for this mission should be 284 by 292 kilometer, 43 degrees for this deployment orbit. So close to 300 kilometers in altitude. And so that's pretty much what Falcon 9 will be doing today. Of course, as you said, the booster is new, but it's not going to be expended. Falcon 9 is reusable. It's going to be landing out there in the Atlantic Ocean on just read the instructions, which is stationed around 600 kilometers downrange.
Yes, hopefully not in the ocean. Hopefully on the barge in the ocean, preferably.
Well, yeah, the drone ship is stationed out there.
Also, you're not in the United States right now, so there's a good chance that things have a better shot at going well.
Hey, Falcon 9 has had a really good, couple of weeks as I was there. So, there were other rockets that didn't have so much luck, but we'll not talk about that.
Yeah, that is very true. Weather-wise, from the looks of it, it seems absolutely beautiful. Max, does the forecast match what we're seeing on the screen?
It sure does. So currently, the forecast from the 45th Weather Squadron based at Patrick Space Force Base is only forecasting a 5% chance of any inclement weather or any unfavorable conditions, which really is about as good as you can get. And judging by what our Mark 1 eyeballs are able to look at above our heads, there isn't a singular cloud in the sky, and we are seeing plenty of stars and no moon. So the stars are ever so prevalent. But yeah, just a slight breeze coming out of the south, heading towards the north, and we have a clear view out to Slick 40. And going through the rest of the forecast in terms of upper level winds, booster recovery weather, and solar activity, really, again, weather is really about as good as it can get. And that is one of the benefits of launching at night here in Florida is the weather tends to be a lot more stable and a lot more calm, which is obviously what you want when you want to get a rocket off the ground and off the orbit. So weather is looking great tonight.
Exactly. That's probably the second best forecast you can get. There's the 5% chance of violation. The only thing better is the less than 5% chance of violation. So it's up there with about as good as it can get. Now, you mentioned something interesting. This is, again, another late night Starlink, and they do be hitting different, as we talk about here often. But one thing we also don't talk about is why are there so many late night Starlink launches? Well, as you mentioned, Max, the weather is definitely a big part of it, but airspace, Alex, also has a lot to do with it, right?
Yeah, and there's also some other factors as well, like where they want these satellites to go within all of these shells and everything, because of orbital mechanics. But most of the time, yeah, it has to do with the fact that nighttime operations are a lot less disruptive for not even just airspace, but also everything else going on at the Cape, right? There's multiple other companies building their own launch pads. They're getting ready for their own launches and things like that. And so it's a lot easier when you do nighttime launches in general.
Yeah, so there's a lot less disruption. Keep in mind, this is very close to Orlando Airport. There's also along the flight path West Palm Beach's airport, Fort Lauderdale's airport, Miami's airport. So a lot of major airspaces that need to be temporarily closed with those temporary flight restrictions and no TAMs, whichever you choose to call them now. So all of that comes into play, but yes, a lot of it does have to do with the particular orbit that these satellites are going into. I do want to take a second here to thank some people supporting us before we even started the stream. The Coefficient, thank you for becoming a Red Team member. And Art, thank you for becoming a Padrat member. And Bideford, a name that we love seeing here at NSF, thank you for gifting 5 Red Team memberships. We really appreciate your support here and everyone's support so that we're able to do what we do and bring it to you. Ricky Nixon is wondering, Alex, you pointed out that there's the mix of the V2 minis and the direct-to-cells. Do we know how many direct-to-cells there are?
Oh dear. It's been a while since I actually kept track of this. But if you give me 5 minutes, I'll be able to tell you in detail because our own friend Jonathan McDowell keeps track of that on his own website, and so I can just pull the numbers from his website, and I can even link it once we go through all that. Get back to me in 5 minutes, and I'll do that.
All right, I
How
will
about
save
that?
that one then, as Alex goes to
Yeah.
the spreadsheets. Oh boy. Now on your screen there, we talked about booster 1095 already. Number 95-1 going its first flight. Max, you mentioned this is the second new booster that we've seen recently, right?
It is. We saw B1094 also launching a Starlink less than a month ago, and it's a rather rare occurrence to see a brand new booster flying from the Cape or even Vandenberg for that matter. It's such a shock just visually as well because we tend to forget that that underneath all those layers of soot and just burntness, I guess, on the tanks surface of the Falcon 9 boosters. Falcon 9 is white. It is a bright white color when it is brand new, as you can see from the upper stage, compared to a more used first stage by comparison sometimes. And we should see 1095 rolling past the VAB in just a couple of seconds. There it is. Yeah, look at that. The contrast between the white tank structure, the bright blue lettering, the Falcon 9 logo on top, and the black interstage and the black landing legs never gets old. And that is how Block 5 just looks really, really sharp by comparison to especially any of the Block 4s and previous. But yeah, it is a rarity to see nowadays, but we say that this is the second one that we have seen in a month, and we have one more coming up potentially in the next 1 or 2 months, as we saw B1091 rolling into McGregor not that long ago, which is now confirmed to be an eventual Falcon Heavy center core, which is something that we have never seen before in terms of flying in a single stick configuration. Normally we see a Falcon Heavy side core being converted to either a Falcon 9 first stage or vice versa, Falcon 9 first stage being converted to a Falcon Heavy side core. We've never seen a Falcon Heavy center core fly before, so that is going to be exciting to see which coast that one ends up coming to. Hopefully this one, considering the flight cadence, maybe, but we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, second brand new booster at the Cape within a month.
And considering East Coast, Best Coast. But yes, I would also think it would be on the East Coast because as of right now, the only launch pad that can launch Falcon Heavy is 39A. So eventually it will have to fly from here once it does get into that Falcon Heavy configuration. But yes, the very rare center core single stick, never been done before. It'll be exciting when that happens. And just for reference, by the way, that video of it rolling by was only 2 days ago. That was from May 17th. So they move these boosters very quickly.
And in that video, you may notice that it didn't have a second stage attached, which usually when they roll out, they already integrate the second stage for, because it's like faster if you integrate that already at Hangar X before rolling it out. So that had to be done at the hangar. Like, it was rather quick. It was just 2 days ago. They rolled out the booster. They put on the second stage. They then put the fairing on the rocket, rolled it out. Like, it was rather quick by all means.
Yeah, that is very true. And as pointed out, again, 1094 just recently flying. I was actually at that launch just a few weeks ago, and now here we are with another new booster. So it's crazy. Also, the fact that, what was it, just last week we set the record with a booster flying for a 29th time, and here we are with the first flight booster within a week of each other. I love it. Here's one from Aiden, and I'll throw this one to you, Alex, since you've got all of the orbits and the shells and all of that down. What exactly does it mean when we say that this is Starlink mission 12-15?
Yes, so the first number refers to the group, right? We were talking about there were different groups of missions, right? And so you've got from all the way back to group 2, group 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and now here is 12. Now, they don't always have these groups all in a very nice, perfect, organized manner, right? And so different groups have different characteristics, I guess, if you want to call it like that. So Group 6, as I was mentioning at the beginning of the stream, they are launches of Starlink V2 mini satellites. So instead of being a mixed batch like Group 12, it's just Starlink V2 mini satellites. The orbit is also 43 degrees inclination, but instead it is just pure Starlink V2 minis. Whereas Group 12, it is that mixed batch of a bunch of Starlink V2 minis and a bunch of Starlink direct-to-cell satellites all in the same launch. And then each launch has its own number as well. So you have 12-1, 12-2, etc., right? Now the 15 means that is the 15th mission. Does it mean this is the 15th launch? No, because they launch out of order. Sometimes they also skip numbers. In this case, it is the 22nd Group 12 launch. So as you can see, it is not a straightforward relationship between that second number and the number of launches that they've done. And in fact, there's other groups as well that are out there. From the Cape, we've seen also Group 8, Group 10. In a couple of weeks, I'm sure there's at least one Group 10 mission coming up as well. And for those that are northeast, they're like all of these Starlink launches go southeast. I'm mostly sure that upcoming mission is gonna be going northeast. We'll see. But yeah, different characteristics and things like that. One day I should probably do some kind of graphic or something like that so we can show on stream or something. I'm no graphics person though, so that will be something that somebody else will have to edit into a nice looking thing. But I digress.
That'd be a good YouTube short. Hey, I should talk to the YouTube Shorts guy. Oh wait, that's me. And yes, we can talk to our graphics department, aka Mr. Map Ryan Caton, to help with that, I'm sure. But yeah, SpaceX can fly Falcon 9 hundreds of times, but can't count to 15 properly. So, minor detail there. But then again, go ahead, mark off your bingo card. The shuttle did the exact same thing. Let's see here. I see a bunch of people in chat still continuing to argue with the East Coast, West Coast versus Least Coast, West Coast, whatever you want to call it. I'm sorry, East Coast still West Coast. Which coast has a rocket on the pad right now that's 43 minutes and 45 seconds away from scheduled to launch? Also, which coast will be launching, fun fact, the 501st overall SpaceX launch? That would be this one, right, Alex? If my numbers are right that I'm seeing here, I know there's a bunch of caveats to that, but this is 501st asterisk launch overall.
Yeah, so that number includes just like full rockets, if you will. Like, it doesn't count things like Grasshopper hops or the F9 RDEV hops or the Starship hops, the little ones with just the ship, or the Starhopper things, right? It just counts full rocket launches. So like the 5 Falcon 1 launches, the 11 Falcon Heavy launches. There's been many Falcon 9 launches as well. Like you can see there, Falcon 9s. This will be the 476 orbital flight. But if you remember, there was another flight which was not orbital for Falcon 9, but it was still a full rocket that was in flight abort test. And before anyone says, yes, the MVAC engine was not real, but the second stage was very much real. That thing blew up. So, and it was loaded with propellant and everything. Obviously it blew up after the Crew Dragon separated, but still it was cool. Anyways, so
I thought you were bringing up a different mission that kind of made it off the ground a couple inches.
Yeah. If you add up all of that for Falcon, it still doesn't get to 501 because now you need to add the 8 full stack Starship launches and then you get to 501. But there you have it.
Yeah, but who's counting? It's only, the 10th launch
counting.
and all that.
I have I literally have my calculator right now on hand because I'm doing the whole direct to cell satellite count now.
I've given you your 5 minutes. I'm letting you continue to count there.
Yeah, you're gonna need to give me another 5 minutes.
I'll let you keep counting. Which, speaking of counting, we should be getting to some milestones here in the countdown. Pretty smooth, right? Max, do you mind just walking us through what we can expect here in the upcoming timeline?
Indeed, we are getting close to crunch time. So at T-minus 38 minutes, the SpaceX launch director based here at the Kennedy Space Center will verify if all systems are go for propellant load. And assuming all systems are go and healthy, meaning the vehicle, the ground systems, and the weatherboard is green, or at least behaving itself, they will then give the go and commence prop load for both first and second stages, which will begin at T-minus 35 minutes, both for stage 1, liquid oxygen, and RP1 load, as well as stage 2 RP1 load. Following about 19 or so minutes later, following the T-minus 20 minute and 20 second vent to thermally condition the prop lines in the transporter erector, which is currently blocked by the crew access tower, the stage 2 liquid oxygen will then begin to load, and that will be the visual cue for that will be that the big vent that occurs at T-minus 20 minutes 20 seconds will cease, and that is our sign that stage 2 liquid oxygen load is underway. But before we get to any of that, we had to get past the T-minus 38 minute mark, and that is coming up in just over 2 minutes, actually. And once we see that, it'll be, assuming they get into prop load at T-minus 35, we should see frost in about 2 or 3 minutes past that. It is very sticky out in Florida tonight. It's rather humid, so while frost itself might be a bit more difficult to spot, with this being a brand new and white booster, there's not much for the ice to contrast against. We should still see a bit of venting and just, I guess, off-gassing from the frost that builds up on the outside of both RP1 and liquid oxygen tanks. So we should be seeing that at around T-minus 31 minutes or so, but before we get to any of that, we have to be given the go for prop load.
Thank you very much, and hopefully we'll be getting that soon. And it may be a little more difficult tonight to see once fueling does begin. So as we hit the usually about 33, 32 minute mark is when we can start to see frost forming on the vehicle. But that's usually because we can see the frost forming over the soot that is on the booster already. So we're going to have to keep an extra close eye on our vehicle tonight to see once they start fueling up Falcon 9. Let's see here. With Joe asking here, with this being the 10th launch of May, what are we tracking for the year? Alex, if my math is right, we are getting very, very close to that targeted 160 launches in the year if they continue with this cadence.
Well, as far as I know right now, I think it is 170 what they were targeting. Originally 180, right? Remember that they had these sort of issues around February, one second stage that didn't deorbit, then they lost a booster after landing, and et cetera, et cetera. So they took a bit of a downtime, and then they said, you know what, let's re-goal, I guess. Like they just retargeted a different goal, and so it was from 180 to 170. Now, as for how many launches they're tracking, originally, way back at the beginning of the year, they were sort of on track for 140, which kind of makes sense, right? That was following up for, coming from a year, 2024, where we had 134 Falcon 9 launches, or Falcon in general launches. And so they were sort of on track for 140, 145. As the year went by, that number went up to 150, then 155, and lately they're being very close to 160. So, they're pushing up a little bit more that cadence. And if they continue like this over the year, they're going to be tracking a little bit more and getting that much closer to 170. You got to remember that, usually for SpaceX, what happens is that the cadence increases towards the end of the year. And a lot of people are always asking, like, how do you know that? And it's like, well, because that's being historically what they've been doing, right? And the whole reason is because you have continuous progression of that cadence. And so what happens is that at the beginning of the year, you have less cadence than at the end. And so what you hope is that at the end, with that slightly more higher cadence, they're going to be compensating. So that's essentially what the numbers all say in general, that if they continue this way, then they're going to be reaching that target of 170. Of course, knock on wood, nothing happens, because last year they were also on track for their target of, I think that they were targeting at the last year 144 launches, and they didn't get there because they had a failure around the July timeframe, right? It's kind of crazy to think about. Yeah, like they had a proper launch failure, then they had a booster lost on landing, and then they had another second stage which did some wonky stuff for the orbit, which wasn't Crew 9. But I don't know if we can bring back the stats, because one of them is, since that failure, that Starlink 9-3 mission, this is the 124th launch. Like, just think about it. How, like, these are so many launches, and it's not even being a year. Like, that was July 2024. We're like late May, of course. We're getting close to a year, but still 124 launches, and we're still not a year out from that. It's quite bonkers.
Bonkies indeed. And that's one of those things where, even back then we were talking about, it seems like a lot of failures. Well, let's say there's a failure 1 in 300 flights, just making a number up right now. If it's 1 in 300, we're already at 124 since the last event, and we're probably on track for at least another 100 this year. So every now and then you're going to find a little something that pops up, and that may cause an issue that needs to be worked. So it's not unheard of, especially when you're launching at this particular cadence. But yeah, my numbers on my spreadsheets are showing about the same, of targeting about 160, but as mentioned, there's a lot of things that go into it with all the vehicles working. We are also approaching hurricane season here in Florida, so that could also cause weather issues going down the line. So just things to keep in mind. Also, things to keep in mind, well, I guess in this case, keep an eye on, is the booster, as if everything is going according to plan, fueling should be underway right now with the RP-1 on stage 2 and the RP-1/LOX, the rocket propellant 1 and liquid oxygen on stage 1. So we will do our best to keep an eye on that booster, especially towards the bottom near the tree line there, to see if we can see the frost start forming here at Slick 40. Which, by the way, Max, Ethan is wondering, what other rockets have previously launched from Slick 40?
Ooh, so the Titan 3, I think, is it, so correct me if I'm wrong, is it Titan 3 and Titan 4, or is it just Titan 4?
It was Titan 3 and 4.
Titan 3 and 4. So obviously they haven't flown in a long time. I believe the last flight of a Titan 3 or a Titan 4 was in the early 2000s, like 2003, 2004 kind of era. So it's been a while since any of the Titan family has flown. But yeah, that is what I guess the quote unquote old space era has flown from Slick 40. And those were all uncrewed missions. So those were either all super classified DoD government missions or stuff for the Air Force. Everything under the sun that was primarily for the government, because that was the Titan 3, Titan 4's bread and butter, was government contracts. So the crew access arm over at Slick 40 is a welcome addition to the, I guess, realm of pads that are crew rated at this point, being now Slick 40, Slick 41, LC 39A, and 39B, hopefully, either at the end of this year or early into next year. So that is 4 pads that sprawl Cape Canaveral Space Force Station and the Kennedy Space Center that are crew rated. But Titan 3 and Titan 4 are what flew from Slick 40 previously.
Exactly. Yeah, the last one was back in 2005, and I remember it was a huge deal when they did the implosion of the launch towers that they had there. This big controlled demolition of the mobile service structure. It was such cool video back in the day. And I was like, I wonder what's going to happen with that pad. And then it's like, oh, cool, this new startup, SpaceX, is going to start doing its thing. And yeah, I think they've done their thing quite a bit here with 252 launches from Slick 40, if you count this one tonight. And Alex, I think we're starting to see frost, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, new boosters, as Max was saying before, since they are all white, it's a lot harder to see the frost, because when they are sooty, you can see the contrast and everything between the suit and the frost. However, we still have that condensation around, those vapors, as you can see there, where the X is for SpaceX. You can see a lot of those vapors. It still gets cold. The ambient air gets really, really cold. And so you see all of those vapors of condensation, which appear when the booster gets really frosty there. So we have confirmation that propellant load is definitely underway now.
All right. Yes, the booster now will be loaded up with those super cool propellants. And again, part of why we can see the frost so well on these is that these are super chilled, right, Alex?
Yeah, this is not your ordinary liquid oxygen, I guess.
Yeah, that's my line.
Yeah. All the rockets, they have the liquid oxygen at boiling point. I believe it's roughly minus 178 degrees Celsius. I'm sorry, I don't know that off the top of my head for Fahrenheit. For Falcon 9, though, they chill down that to roughly minus 200 degrees Celsius. If I'm not mistaken, that should be minus 330 degrees Fahrenheit. That one I remember a little bit better because, we often talk about it. So I usually try to, also know it in freedom units, if you will.
Yes, I appreciate the freedom units as a freedom unit user myself, or as we should call them, lunar units, since that's what brought people to the moon. I mean, yeah,
Isometric.
I'm already starting debates in chat as is with East Coast, West Coast. So let's just make it even worse now, throwing in freedom units and Fahrenheit versus Celsius. You're welcome. Enjoy, moderators. Oh, here's a question from Nathan, and Max, I'll throw this one to you. They're saying, I'm on the other side of the Indian River Lagoon off of US 1. Is there a better/closer spot to view the launch? I mean, that's a pretty good spot.
That is a really good spot, and for any nighttime launch from the Cape or the KSC, really any spot along the river or near the port is going to be a great view, especially when it's flying southeast, like these Group 6 and Group 12 Starlink shells launch into. In terms of closeness, I think the best view you can get publicly is from Cars Park. It's around 7 or so miles, give or take, here or there, a half mile from Slick 40. But it's still a great view nonetheless. And even if you are just parked along somewhere on US 1 along the river, it's going to be a great view regardless. So right where you are probably is already great.
Exactly, especially for the night launches. And that's the beauty with the Starlinks, with them being, basically the same trajectories, is that you kind of get a good idea of what to expect from these traditional viewing spots. So you're in a great spot. And if you're ever not sure and you're coming down for a launch, don't forget we have a video right here on NSF of how to view a rocket launch, including some of the tips and tricks that Max, Julia, Dee, and myself, we've all learned throughout doing our photography here, and some of the places you may not know about. So if you're ever coming down, make sure you check out that video beforehand. We've got all the best vantage points from all the different launch pads, too. Let's see. River Dave with a very interesting question here. Alex, do you think Falcon will eventually overtake Soyuz as the most launched rocket?
I don't think so. I mean, if you refer to Soyuz as the whole family of R7 missile-derived rockets, right? If you refer to the Soyuz as the variant of Soyuz with the most launches, which I think was the Soyuz U, which had something like 700 and something, then I do think it's probably going to be going well past that number. I do not think it's going to get to, the total number of launches of R7 derived rockets, right? Because that is currently well over 2000. I think it's 2003 launches so far. And I think Falcon 9 is going to reach 1,000 launches total, but it's probably going to retire well before it reaches 2,000.
Yeah, because it is worth noting again that SpaceX has said they plan to retire Falcon 9. It's probably not going to be for about a decade or so at least, but even if, let's say they do 150 Falcon launches a year for the next 10 years, that's 1,500. That's still going to be a way to catch up, especially since the Soyuz, the Russian vehicle, is still flying to this day. That's still what takes crew to the ISS, is the Soyuz. So it's going to be a lot to catch up, and there's already been 476 orbital Falcon 9 flights asterisk on it. So that would put him close to 2,000 in 10 years from now.
Here's Carson with next space flight there. 859, Soyuz U missions with that rocket. So that's one of the variants, many of the variants of the Soyuz rocket, and the R7 derived rockets don't even include Soyuz. There's also like the Molniya, the Luna, the Sputnik, the Vostok, many different rockets as well. All of them very much, there you can see there, all of that Molniya M. But yeah, and so if you add up all of those launches, it gets well over 2,000. So I don't think Falcon 9 is going to reach that, but that number of 859, though, we might get there in a couple of years as things go right now. Definitely in the next couple of months, we're going to get to 500 launches. of Falcon 9, and probably by the end of the year, maybe at the beginning of next, we'll reach those 600 launches. So give it another year or so, and we're already at that number of 859 launches.
Oh, yeah, I definitely think it will pass that. Will it pass all of Soyuz is going to be very interesting to see as they, again, especially as the launch cadence picks up and as the transition occurs from Falcon 9 over to Starship, especially.
Mm.
So we will be watching those numbers very carefully. And again, there's asterisks for everything. And in case you wanted to keep track of those numbers yourself, man, that data that we saw on that website was super helpful. If only everyone else could access the website and the app called Next Spaceflight, part of NSF, to get all of that information about rocket history. Oh wait, you can! You can also keep track of all the latest launches, get push alerts when launches are happening, and my personal favorite on the app itself on your phone, you can actually see the trajectory of the launches, including tonight's, with some awesome data powered by Flight Clubs. So
And more features coming up. I can leak one thing. We're working on a very neat thing to add. It's more for nerds like me. If you ever wonder, like, is there any other way of calling this mission or like manufacturers and things like that? We're going to be starting to add that to our database. So, we'll have that information out there available for anybody that wants it.
you heard it here first, folks. Mark your calendars, mark down your notes, all of that.
It's a very nerdy addition, to be fair. There's many other more cool, informational, situational awareness stuff going on as well. I'm not going to leak any of that, of course, but that one I can leak.
And if you want more information and situational awareness about launches and in general everything that's going on here at NSF, we actually have a newsletter that you can sign up for. It is super easy. All you have to do there, you see the rocket recap. Just go to nsf.live/newsletter. You will not only get to see kind of when the rocket launches are happening, updates on videos you may have missed, some exclusive offers for the shop that you see in there, and other awesome behind-the-scenes content, including stories from the photographers about some of our photos and how we captured them. So you could check that out at nsf.live/newsletter. It's just a weekly thing that keeps you updated on everything at NSF and gives you all the info you need to know. And Chris Bergen, NSF official, saying that he has a horse section coming soon into the newsletter. You'll have to follow to make sure that you get that. That's for sure. Let's see here. We are about 23 minutes away from tonight's launch. By the way, Alex, did you ever get that number of the operational direct-to-cell satellites?
Yeah, so I actually had a certain number of a number of tricks here, because I actually on my own roundup articles that I've been doing every quarter for already a few quarters for SpaceX. For example, I'm looking here at the one at the end of 2024. In 2024, they launched 388 direct-to-cell satellites, and then on the first quarter of 2025, they launched 182 Starlink direct-to-cell satellites. And then if you add the ones that they've already been launching over the course of the second quarter, we get 609 direct-to-cell satellites that they've launched so far. This mission will bring that number up to 622. So we'll see how it goes.
There you go. Alex with the numbers, again, with the help of the amazing Jonathan McDowell, keeping track of all of that too. So thank you to him, and thank you, Alex, for all of your spreadsheet work here at NSF. We all greatly appreciate it. Chat, can we give a big thank you to Alex's spreadsheets?
Eh.
Eh? What do you mean, eh?
I actually have multiple spreadsheets, but one of them follows the countdown, and I'm sure a lot of people are thinking, wait, we're 1 minute away from the T-minus 30-minute event.
I was totally not trying to stretch to get to that point or anything. It's fine.
You thought I was going to be doing a long answer, and that's what you threw to me.
It's
See?
exactly why I threw it to you.
I got you.
Total honesty. I was expecting an Alex answer that would take us close to the 20-minute, 20-second bet.
Well, 30 seconds to go. We can fit something in. Like, for example, we've been talking about the booster. It's new. Those fairing house, though, they are not new. A lot of people always miss the fact that those are usually very well flight proven. And so for this mission, they're going to be going also southeast to that northeast of the Bahamas landing zone. They're going to be recovered on the ferry recovery vessel above. And I think I've made enough time for, in about a couple of seconds from now, see that T-minus 20-minute event. And there it is. So that's the start of the... Yeah.
Alex, what are we taking a look at then? What do we see on our screen right now?
I was gonna follow it up with, this is the start of the chill down, because now in about 4 minutes from now they're gonna be doing the liquid oxygen load on the second stage, so they need to condition those lines for that load of the second stage, and of course, they flow a little bit of that liquid oxygen through. The liquid oxygen will warm up, but in turn, you've got that pipe going a little bit more colder as it flows through. And that's why we see that vent. That vent is just gaseous oxygen escaping through. And as I always explain it, on one end, you have the second stage. The valves are closed, nothing going inside of the second stage. But you have to have a relief for that liquid oxygen because it warms up, it goes gas. And so it needs to be vented. And so that's what we see here. As you can see, once it closes off, right? But once they start the liquid oxygen load on the second stage, they open those valves that go to the second stage. They close this one, so that T-minus 20-minute vent disappears. And that'll be our clue that they are loading liquid oxygen on the second stage.
So far, that means everything continuing on track for a launch 19 minutes from now from this launch pad on your screen, Space Launch Complex 40 at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. Again, 23 Starlink V2 mini satellites, a combination of the regular V2 minis as well as the direct-to-cell satellites on board this particular launch. And this particular launch on board the brand new Booster 1095-1. That is why, if you're just joining, the rocket looks as clean and shiny and nice and pretty as it does, with no soot on it yet. Hopefully that will indeed change tonight. Now, I saw a question here asking about the visibility of this launch. Jay Ammons was saying that, will I see this from the middle of the Caribbean Sea? I don't know the trajectory, just saw there was a launch. Max, would he maybe be able to see that? And where is the trajectory in general for tonight's launch?
So, depending on where in the Caribbean, you might just be able to. Falcon 9 is heading off on a southeast flight path tonight at about 43 degrees inclination southeast. So, especially if you are south of Cape Canaveral, going all the way down to even Miami, you should have a great view of tonight's launch. But if you're I don't know, because at that point you are well past the first stage burn, and you will only have a view of the second stage if you are even able to see it at all either. I'm not going to say you won't, because I genuinely don't know. I've never seen anyone posting a video from possibly as far as you may be. So if you do see it, take a picture, take a video, post it, and tag us all. We'd love to see it. But I don't want to say you won't, but I don't want to say you can either. So feel free to let us know afterwards.
Exactly. Yes, you can see there that splotch sort of on the bottom right there. That is where we expect the booster landing to happen on the drone ship. That is also where the fairings are set to splash down. So hopefully the booster will land on just read the instructions downrange. Bob will pick up the fairing halves there, and the second stage will continue. I mean, the last couple of weeks we've had fantastic views of stage 2 because we were closer to the full moon, and we got what we like to call the moon jellyfish. So basically, as the plume expands, it gets into the thinner parts of the atmosphere, the light can hit that plume just right, either if it's just before sunrise, just after sunset, or I had that backwards, and then basically around sunrise, around sunset, or sometimes if there's a full moon, it will highlight it. So there's a chance. And again, as pointed out, we're on all of your favorite socials. Please tag us if you do see the launch from anywhere tonight. Check us out, NASA Spaceflight, on most of those. All right. Let's see. Mark Lamb, thank you for gifting 5 Red Team memberships. We very much appreciate that. And there are the socials, by the way, on the top right of your screen for X, Instagram, Facebook. We're also on Threads. We are also on TikTok. We are also on Blue Sky. So Take your pick. We are happy to see whatever you are able to send to us. When this launches, hopefully 15 minutes and 40 seconds from now. And we should also be seeing, right on time, there it is, that venting kind of stopping, which means that fuel load of the liquid oxygen is underway on stage 2. Stage 1 has been loading both the RP1 and the liquid oxygen all the way through the count up to this point. Here's one from the MDW Aviator using their 12-month member milestone to ask the question, how many times do you think a Falcon booster will be reflown? Again, 1095 on its first flight tonight. Let's go around the horn. Alex, I'll start with you. How many do you think will be the most reflown Falcon 9 booster?
I'm going to go with the official sort of goal that they have, which is certifying these boosters and Fahrenhalfs for 40 flights. We've already seen a Fahrenhalf flying for 30 flights, right? So there are 10 flights to go. For Falcon 9 boosters, we have gone up to 28 launches. So there's still 12 to go. Now, do I think it's going to be that same booster? We'll see about that, right? I do think these later boosters in the, B1080s or B1090 range, I think those are more likely to reach those 40 launches. But we'll see. I do think we're going to see at some point that many launches of a single booster.
Max, what do you think?
Yeah, as Alex was saying, the current goal is to certify Falcon 9 boosters up to 40 reflights, or 40 flights, I should say, about 39 reflights in general. But we all thought that maybe at the 20 flight mark, SpaceX would, I guess, analyze a route forward in terms of having Falcon 9s fly more, because 20 reflights for a booster is absolutely insane. Even just rewind even 3 to 4 years ago, reaching the 10 flight milestone seemed like it was a really big milestone, and that Falcon 9 was at the edge of what was possible, but obviously not with the current leader 1067 now at 28 flights. Yeah, I'm gonna side on with Alex here in that 40 flights is the next milestone, and we will hopefully at least see that. But going past it, I want to say, I mean, it depends on what the Falcon 9 structure can handle. So I want to say anywhere from maybe 50 to 60 if they are able to really push it.
I think it's safe to say that we will see Space Shuttle Discovery's record beaten. So I think we're going to have over 37, 38 flights total of a Falcon 9, which is going to be a sad day to see the Space Shuttle record of vehicle reflights broken, because I do love Shuttle that much, but it will be exciting. I think we can easily get close to 50. I think they're going to hit 40 and probably just try to keep pushing the envelope as far as they can. But then again, as we've seen, they are also building and testing plenty of new boosters. 1091, which is a Falcon Center core, will eventually be flown as a regular single-stick Falcon 9 for the first time. So there's potential for them to keep building more and keep making more, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they go over that 40 mark. Here's a bit of a techie question, sort of. Alex, I'll throw this one to you then, of course. Curito saying 1 month to moon, but also, is the amount of Starlinks on board mass limited or volume limited?
Right now it's mostly mass limited. Mostly because we've seen up to 29 Starlink satellites on board. It seems like maybe they could fit a little bit more. One of the things that I usually mention is that, I usually think about it, I don't mention it, but one of the things is that back when we saw 60 satellites at a time, those were the old V1 satellites, right? The smaller ones. But they were carrying on each, so, they were carrying like 2 at a time. So they had actually 30 rows, I guess, of satellites. And so you had 30 pairs of satellites. Now, the Starlink V2 minis, they are about as thick as those older satellites, but they are twice as large. So you have essentially still the whole reason why it's like half the number that we saw back with V1 satellites is precisely because of that. I think in terms of volume, the limit is probably going to be 30 of the Starlink satellites, the V2 version. And so right now we're not getting there, even when they try to fill it to the brim, essentially, mass wise. So it seems like we're just limited by mass. Again, this one is flying 23, a mix of 10 Starlink V2 minis and 13 direct-to-cell satellites, but both of which have very similar thickness, so to speak, to fit within the fairing half, the fairing envelope. So you'll see once they deploy those fairing halves that you're going to see a bunch of Starlinks that are of one way, and then another ones that are the other way. Those are the direct-to-cell. The others are the V2 mini satellites, but you'll see they are very consistent in sort of how thick they are. And that's what drives how many of them you can stack together until you reach the limit of the fairings. I do think it's just mass constrained and not volume constrained.
And again, they don't give exact stats of exactly how big and how the mass of each of these anymore. They're very kind of sneaky about that, but that would make sense. Boy, that it is so cool to see that new booster wearing its sort of cape of frost, which would be even cooler if you got to wear your own stuff. And, well, maybe not a cape, but maybe some of our new summer merch at shop.nasaspaceflight.com. We have some awesome new ways to launch into summer in style. One of my favorites is the Hawaiian shirts that you see there. There are two different designs. There is one with the drone ships on it. There is also one with a dragon on it. And there's fun little Easter eggs on them. I just got mine in the mail this past weekend for the Hawaiian shirt. It is surprisingly soft. I actually, I didn't know if I was going to wear a Hawaiian shirt around, but the thing is comfy. I could actually see myself wearing it around a bunch. It is really soft, and the Hawaiian shirts are made in the USA, by the way. So another little fun hint there if you want to get one of those shirts. We also have them in plenty of different colors, as you see there, and don't forget, we even have women's merch now in there as well, too. We've got pajamas, we've got shorts, we've got so many cool new summer items in there. Take a look at that. Also with our drone ships and our dragons on there. And in case you're wanting to say farewell to Booster 14 or just take a splash for yourself in there, we also have our Super Heavy Swim Club, including Jack wearing the Super Heavy Swim Club swim shorts, which you may have seen that in the newsletter if you haven't subscribed yet or on socials. So you got to check it out. This is one of my favorite drops. And again, those shirts are really soft. So there it is, the beautiful Jack Beyer modeling that. This is all at shop.nasaspaceflight.com. I highly recommend checking out this new drop. It is actually really, really awesome. Well, I know everyone's going to have to chill down a bit after seeing Jack shirtless like that, but I think another thing that's about to chill are the engines. Max, why do we need to chill down the engines?
Well, similar to why they have to chill down the prop lines in the transporter erector for stage 2 LOX load, and that the last thing you want to do is flow any sort of super cold or cryogenic either prop or any fluid through any plumbing or structures that are not at or very near the super cold temperatures for risk of flash gassing or any sort of damage that could occur to any of the engine that is in contact with said cryogenic propellant. So you want to make sure that any environment that either super cold RP1 or LOX or hydrogen or any cryogenic propellant or fluid needs to or likes to be in an environment that is at or very near its temperature. So that is why why the engines need to be able to behave themselves in all the same with the tanks and all the lines in the transporter erector, as we mentioned earlier.
Well, I'll let you and Dee behave yourselves and go take a work on those cameras, because I know we are getting very close to launch. So, Max, best of luck to you on your photography for tonight.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I'll see you on the other side.
All right, 6 minutes and 20 seconds to go until tonight's launch. And again, this is the Falcon 9 from Slick 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida, launching the Starlink 12-15 mission to low Earth orbit aboard a brand new booster, B-1095. That's the Dash 1 making its first flight tonight. So, Alex, what can we expect in the final parts of the count here?
Yeah, so right now they have probably already wrapped up the RP1 load on the first stage if all is still on track. Up next should be the retraction of that stromback. The top cradle arms will open, then the stromback will retract about 1.8 degrees away from the rocket. Liquid oxygen will also wrap up on the first and second stages for full propellant load on Falcon 9. That should be at T-3 and T-2 minutes in the count respectively, and then we'll have a T-1 minute the Falcon 9 in startup moment, which essentially means that the ground computers hand over the control of the countdown from from those ground computers to the onboard computers on Falcon 9. Those computers will be making lots of checks, essentially hundreds of them every couple of seconds, just to make sure that the whole rocket is ready to launch. The tanks will pressurize for flight, and hopefully we're also going to have that go for launch from the launch director roughly at T-minus 45 seconds to go. So, just 4.5 minutes to go. We are just getting very close to that stromback retract moment, and so hopefully we still see that launch in just a few minutes.
Yes, it's a little tough to see now that they've erected that crew access tower there. But behind that crew access tower, the strongback is retracting, as you pointed out, a whole whopping 1.8 degrees. Just enough to get out of the way for now, but it will completely throw out of the way and throw back as it gets ready to launch right once the engine ignition occurs. So there's still time. I do want to really quickly, before we get into the meat of the countdown here, thank Sheriff Tracy for gifting 5 Red Team memberships, the best Tracy. Apocalypse Cow Danger Moo gifting 5 Red Team memberships. And Ethereal Swordsman saying, apparently rocket exhaust is hot. I burned my tongue on the last Starlink launch. Got it stuck on a Raptor on the last ship Static Fire too. Those are surprisingly cold. Help, I'm still stuck in the trench. Well, you've got 3 minutes and 40 seconds to get out of the flame trench, so hopefully you get out in time here from Slick 40 underneath Falcon 9 and tonight's launch. You can see there everything extremely frosty on the screen. That is totally normal. Again, you've got these super cooled propellants inside the vehicle, the hot, humid air of Florida on the outside. Weather, though, still looking perfect for this evening's launch attempt. Now, coming up, we should be getting ready to start wrapping up the propellant load. So in what order do those propellant loads wrap up? And there's usually a good indication that the vehicle's fully fueled, right, Alex?
Yeah, so first is the first stage. This is a very easy way to remember that because it's first the first stage, second the second stage. And so once that second stage is all wrapped up as well with that liquid oxygen load, then we'll see the return of that stromback vent roughly T-1 minute and 45 seconds on the count. So essentially about a minute from now. So once we see that, it's going to be our clue that everything is fully loaded on Falcon 9. They're going to be venting down all of those interfaces, all of those propellant lines to the Falcon 9 precisely to clear everything out ahead of liftoff. You don't want any of that nasty stuff there as the rocket just, flies off at T-0, right? Right at liftoff, just a few feet away, a few meters away from that stromback. You don't want that. Oh,
Exactly.
It seems like we have a hold.
A little hard to see with our
Countdown.
there, but
Yeah, countdown has hold at T-2 minutes and 28 seconds.
there we go.
Well.
Here on the screen. Typically, as is the case with Falcon 9, because they use the super chilled propellants, once they load up Falcon 9, at this point, typically they do not have enough time to either hold because of how cold it is or detank and retank within the window. So that typically means that there is no launch happening tonight. That is why it says hold on the screen. We are waiting for the official word for them to say scrub. And resetting the clock to T-minus 15 minutes is typically what they do.
Yeah, this is not another try today. That's the usual recycle point for Falcon 9. They're going to be detanking the rocket and preparing for another try. Hopefully as soon as tomorrow. If they were to target tomorrow, they have an opportunity at 11:18 p.m. Eastern, right? and so we are going to be seeing what they do with this rocket.
Exactly.
The
It
only
does
thing
still
is
say-
that
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, one of the things is that because we are just at the mercy of what we hear on the countdown nets, we have not heard anything other than running launch abort. I was sort of keeping track of that countdown, and that's when I was like, wait, you just said launch abort, and so that's when I said, wait, they actually held the count, and we don't know what's happened, right? And so that's why I said if that's a big if they were to go tomorrow. That will be the next launch attempt. But again, they will need to figure out what happened here. We don't know, of course, because they didn't say.
Correct. At this point, I mean, the weather seems to have been a go from everything from the 45th Weather Squadron, from everything our team in the field has been seeing. So we don't know if it's a ground system. We don't know if it's an issue with the rocket, with any of the propellant loading. Again, this happened just about 2.5 minutes before the scheduled T0 of this. It does say countdown hold on the screen. That is why our clock does say hold. But given SpaceX's history and what they've told us in the past in regards to the vehicle, with the fact that they do super chill the propellants on board down super cold, means they typically cannot hold even for, in this case, the 15-minute point. And the window isn't typically long enough for them to detank and retank at that point. So, yes, you've heard me say the S word. This is very likely a scrub. We are just waiting for the official word for them to go ahead and say scrub. But it sounds like our field team hearing venting out from the press site. Max, I'm not sure if you're with us, if you're hearing that.
Yep, I'm back on comms for a little bit. Yeah, we have been hearing a lot of venting from Slick 40, and that is per usual in what needs to happen with both the vehicle and both the ground systems if they have to abort a targeted T0. So we are waiting for official word.
Exactly. We're continuing to watch, of course, the rocket and the vehicle. We want to make sure that everything manages to remain safe and clear here. Again, continuing just to watch everything going on right now with Falcon 9. Last we saw was 2 minutes and 28 seconds into the count. It was a hold. And normally, Alex, we see like 4.5, 5 hour launch windows sometimes for Starlink. This was not one of those, right?
You mean the window length?
Yeah.
Yeah, usually it's a really long one. At least based on the hazard notices and everything. This one was not going to be anything beyond 12:46 a.m. Eastern, which is a rarity, as you were saying, right? We're used to those 4-hour windows. So this one being just essentially barely an hour long. Now SpaceX is signing off, it looks like. So yeah, it was a rarity. Now I do wonder though, because can I put my speculation hat on for a second?
Sure.
It's quite interesting that it's a new booster on this mission, and particularly this one hold. Like, and it did very shortly after Falcon 9, like the first stage liquid oxygen load wrapped up.
I was going to say 2.5 minutes is about when they start wrapping up the LOX load, and this was at T-minus 2 minutes, 28 seconds. So,
Yeah.
very, as the kids would say, quite sus. But you know what the kids also say these days?
What do they say?
They say eat, sleep, scrub, repeat. And that is our special NSF scrub merch. This is a very rare merch. Not a lot of people actually have this, as they call a scrub, because we only launch this when a rocket attempt scrubs, and it is only available for an extremely limited time. We're talking only a couple of hours max. So, if you want, including in our favorite orange color here, it's orange, check out the NSF scrub shirt and let everyone know that, sure, scrubs may happen, but all you gotta do is eat, maybe sleep, ? Scrub, and we repeat. We keep doing this again and again until they get it right. Because, as I always say, rather have scrubs, not ruds, right? So,
Yep.
we may not know why just yet the scrub occurred or when the next attempt will be, but the merch is live now. That we can confirm. So, very interesting to see, of course, keep an eye on in case anything is posted. And a reminder, you can follow all of our socials, and we will be posting an update as soon as we hear anything from SpaceX there. So that is X, Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, and TikTok. Keep an eye on your favorite socials. We will update you as we hear anything from SpaceX on what the potential scrub was. But again, the launch attempt called off tonight, 2 minutes and 28 seconds to go. And look at that, someone already ordering the scrub shirt. We appreciate it. We're able to do what we do because of the support from everyone out there. So thank you very much for doing that and for getting
That was quick. I know
that
people.
was very quick.
I know people that often, unfortunately have to miss this Starlink launches. But hopefully with that, little window. How long did you say it was again? The window for picking the scrub merch.
It's only a matter of hours.
Okay, yeah. So you gotta do it now or you miss it.
Exactly. By the way, I do want to thank Ethereal Swordsman here with a couple of messages saying, "Oh, thank goodness, guess I'm not cooked tonight. Good, I was getting worried." True, it gives you time to get out of the trench. Although they said I was kind of looking forward to snacking on the gas generator exhaust. Oh well, guess I have to eat cup ramen again tonight. Nothing wrong with that. Oh boy. And again, thank you everyone again getting the scrub merch. It is only up for a few hours, so if you want it, you got to make the decision soon. Because the way that SpaceX launches, they don't pop up that often. Probably not until the next ULA launch. I mean, what? Sorry. Let me take a moment here and just thank the people that were helping us out tonight, though. Max, thank you for rolling out in the field tonight. We really still appreciate our field team out there.
Of course, it's a pleasure as always. And that, folks, that is just part of the game we play sometimes, and that is just how the ball rolls. So we will roll with it and hopefully come back tomorrow night for another attempt.
That is the hope. And Alex, thank you as well for joining on commentary here.
It's been a pleasure. Of course, I will have, wished for a launch, but as we say, scrubs, not ruts.
Exactly. And a huge shout out to D-Wise as well out in the field for rolling out to setting up their gear, getting some awesome shots, trying to line up for you once the rocket launches. Of course, I'm sure D will have more amazing slow-mo. Also, D repping some of the new merch from our summer collection in the shop too. So thank you for that. And thank you to Carson Phillips, who is the one pushing the buttons and pulling the levers for tonight's attempt. Also, Rupin coming in with a store message here saying, "I finally got it. Happy for the shirt. We'll be back for the launch." Glad you were able to grab the shirt while you could there. So thank you very much for the support. I am Sawyer Rosenstein. I have been your host for this evening's launch attempt. Reminder, keep updated on the socials. We will let you know when the next launch attempt is. And of course, we will be live for that attempt. Until then, thank you so much, everybody, for watching. And have a good night.
And here we go.
We have liftoff. Propulsion continues to be nominal.
RS-68 chamber pressure looks good.
Doubling up. Roger, roger, planet.
Tango down to nominal.
Flight downside SPD off. Bring in SPD off. Off. It's orange! Orange 45! Oh my god! Oh my god! Décollage! What is it? Put that in the big bag, Eagle.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
This methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You good? Sure. We don't need any more of these.